We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the Cash Flow Pro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of Cash Flow Pro, your daily real estate investing podcast and YouTube channel. I'm here today with Becca Hint of hintinvestments.com. And I'm going to tell you, you are in for a special treat because Becca is currently doing what many of us, I guess at least the people of us that have vision, hope to do someday or want to do every day, it seems like, and that is pick up, move to a tropical destination and say, hey, kids, this is the new house. This is the new home. This is where we're at. This is where we're staying, and settle in. Now, Becca and her husband and kids, right? 2 kids, right?
That's right. 2 kids.
Picked up and moved. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll dive deep into exactly what led to that, what started that. I know COVID played a role. I know there was a lot of different things that happened, and everything just kind of the stars aligned, and here you are. So, Becca, welcome today. How are you?
I'm great, Casey. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. We're always glad to meet up with you and hear your stories and hear where you came from. I know I can say that because we've talked before, not necessarily on the show, but we've talked, and I've learned a lot about where you come from, what you've got going on. And so tell us a little bit about the beginnings of what kind of life led you to do what you've done, and then let's talk into we'll talk hotel conversions and the other stuff.
That sounds
So
great. And I'm the only one coming to you with a real tropical background. No virtual
that is
background
real.
here.
That is not, yeah, that is
That's
not the
real.
Zoom.
I've got the mango trees behind me, and the monkeys come around in a couple hours. So hopefully we'll get
That's
a glimpse of them. But
that's awesome.
yes, it's been such a journey, Casey, and it's just been so wonderful. Basically, back in August, my family and I, my husband and my 2 kids, age 11 and 12, so 5th and 6th grade.
Okay.
We're from the San Francisco Bay Area. My husband and I were medical device reps, and we said, hey, let's be part of this great resignation. Let's get out of here. Let's leave this whole thing behind, move to a place where everything is new, put our life on autopilot, put our passive income, rather, our income on autopilot, and let's try to go live in the tropics. And what this has ended up in is we left it all behind, and we're here in Costa Rica, living
Ah,
off passive income from real estate, 80% subsidized by passive income from real estate. We live in one of the blue zones of the world. So, are you familiar with this, the blue zones?
I'm not. I'm not, and I doubt the listeners are either. Maybe they are. So go ahead,
Oh,
tell
all
us.
right. Well, go ahead. Well, basically, we're in Nosara, Costa Rica. It's a boutique surf and yoga hub in the Guanacaste province of Costa Rica.
Okay.
So, this is the Pacific side. Guanacaste itself is one of the 6 blue zones of the world. And a blue zone is where there's many books on it, there's movies on it. You need only Google it, and a ton of things will come up. And it's essentially where there's the highest concentration of centenarians in the world. These are people that live to 100 years and beyond in very good health, and it's a product of a little bit of the biome of the place, as in the tropics here, but more so it's the healthy lifestyle and the food, the water,
Okay.
and many different things they profile to be part of blue zones. Okinawa, Japan is another one.
Oh
Sardinia,
my.
Sicily.
Okay.
hmm So there's a number of them, and I tell you, it's a very true. It's been a tremendous difference in my husband's health, that we realized many of just, the medications he was on were a product of stress. And, it's kind of the whack a mole when you go to Western medicine and they say, oh, you have allergies, you have gluten allergies, you have allergies to all these random things. Here's some medication, here's some asthma inhalers. And I said, this whole thing doesn't make any sense. We got here in two
Yeah.
to 3 weeks, all that's gone.
Oh my
So it's
God.
it's
Really?
a very real thing, blue zones. Um, yeah, and then the elimination of stress is a huge part of
Now
it.
I'll tell you, I've been right where you're sitting. Well, not right where you're sitting right now, but I've been to Guanacaste and stayed down there, and I can I can vouch for the losing of the stress part.
Mhm.
Simply by, if by nothing else, the views and the almost the bay that it sits in is, it's honestly probably one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And then the fact that you can turn around and drive 5 miles behind you and be sitting basically in a jungle,
Yes.
um, and eating black beans and uh, maize that's been hand crushed. I mean, or hand ground. Um,
Yep.
I
You
mean,
got it. You got it exactly.
it's a fabulous place. It's yes, it's most definitely. So obviously now you're enjoying life at this point, it seems like. And the passive income, I want to dig in just a little bit on. So the passive income, tell us a little bit about that and how you were able to situate that before you left, and then kind of go from there.
You bet. Yes. My two favorite subjects, travel and passive income. Love it.
Awesome.
Yeah, basically, this is a lot of things stitched together, which is great because I think your listeners need to know this, that we're not people that have it all figured out. We're not big shots out there in the multifamily space. We stitched many of our passive income deals together and then put our home as a passive income. So, for one, I have a couple LP deals as a limited partner I've invested in multifamily syndications.
Okay.
And that's about 450 units there. So then we have a little
Okay.
bit of income off that. I have a building in San Francisco I've had for 18 years that I house hacked when I was single and a medical device rep back then. Um, and that's a good appreciation play. I like these markets, like New York, San Francisco, Chicago. These deals that really don't make sense, scratched out in cash flow, but they're good kind of Rip Van Winkle investments. You just set them and
Sure.
forget them, and make $1 million in 10 years on
There you
appreciation.
go. There
That's
you
what
go.
you do. You fall asleep for 10 years, and you wake
That's
up and
right.
you made $1 million.
That's right. That's right.
Uh,
That's what we're here for. That's the cash flow. That's why you become a cash flow pro right there. So
That's right. That's the cash flow pro. Yeah. And then you get to a point with some of those investments, you say, wow, I've got a lot of equity. Let's now sell this and move it into more cash flow deals. But there's a place for these as well, these equity
sure.
plays. So that's an appreciation equity play. And now after 18 years, it kicks off a decent amount of income. So we have that San Francisco building. And then we have our single family home, and a lot of people don't realize this. When you look at how much you're paying per day on the home you live in, what is the value of that with the pool guy, the gardener? Maybe eliminate the water and the heating if you were going to rent your home long term. But what is that
Yeah.
price? And can you? What is that price per day? And then take that price per day and say, hey, how much can you live somewhere else on that? And we took that delta and said, wow, we could live in Costa Rica, surf every day, do yoga every day, send the kids to this amazing school, and have our whole life supported on these passive income deals
Yep.
from the US. Um, in the single family home part, our primary residence, rather, has been a real enlightenment in
Yep.
many of the things that you can deduct when your home becomes a rental property. We
Yep.
spent a year ahead of time getting this property ready, redoing the bathrooms, the floors, the this, the that, and like, ladies, if you want a new kitchen, here's your opportunity.
Is the way to get it.
This is the way to get
Then
it.
you got to leave it though. Then you got to pack.
You got
Then you got to pack up and leave.
that's the doubt, right? That's it. You
That's the
got to plan on
caveat,
that.
right?
That's the caveat. Yeah. But, all those things of a year ahead of time and preparing your home for a rental are deductible. And
Yep.
then your trips back home to check on your rental property while visiting family back home is
Yep.
deductible as well.
Yep.
So you look at things also from a tax perspective on making a lot of these things tax deductible. Meanwhile, creating passive income and then living in a place that's less expensive. And you would be
Yep.
amazed at the life you could scratch out with those variables in mind.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I'll tell you, the people of Costa Rica are always grateful. I mean, or they were always grateful, at least for the tourist part of it. As far as being a permanent resident, I assume now what just real quick, and this is outside of the cash flow and the capital raising and the rentals and all that stuff, but what are the visa requirements for Costa Rica? I mean, because I know some places you can only go, like, you can only be a resident the max 6 months a year or something like that. So what are those requirements, and how do you meet those?
Yeah, it's what most people do. You do a 90-day visa run. So for the most part,
Okay.
when you live in a place like this, you're traveling anyway. You know, you're going to Peru because South America's 3.5 hours away. Um,
Yep.
and then you're going back home, and then you're leaving for the holidays. So every 90 days, you need to stamp your passport and show that you're leaving the country. Um,
Okay.
there are digital nomad visas that were just approved that will allow
Oh,
people to
wow.
stay much longer. So that's
Okay. When
been
you say much longer, what is that?
couple years, I believe. I
Wow.
think yeah, yeah.
Well,
I
I
think they
think they're
have it.
seeing it as an opportunity themselves, and the Costa Ricans are very, very, uh, they know how to use their resources to the max, and they know how to define those resources very quickly. I noticed that when we were there, everything from the coffee businesses all the way to the hotel businesses, they know how to capitalize at a max, and capitalize when they most need to. And that is typical right there, saying, hey, these people are all leaving and they're coming here. We need to do something to initiate the idea that they can stay here,
That's
and
right.
not. And so that's brilliant
Y-
on their part, and I
Brilliant.
guarantee that, like I said, that's almost textbook Costa Rican from my experiences.
Right. You know,
um
that's a keen observation. I can tell you're well traveled to just even know that Costa Rica, previously their economy was coffee based.
yep.
But they realize that they are one of the few countries in Central America that's safe. They have no army. It's a
Yep.
stabilized economy. It's a democracy. You can own land here, and they have an infinite amount of natural resources in their
Yep.
water, their volcanoes. It's just a beautiful place. So because of that, the whole economy has shifted to tourism. And then it's
Yep.
shifted to ecotourism, which is just, just wonderful. They're
Yeah, and
doing
I
it the
think
right way.
their geographical situation, because I see the only thing between them and Venezuela is Panama, correct?
Mhm. Right?
And so when you sit and think about their insulation, they're insulated on both sides from a lot of that other stuff that the world kind of, the demoralization of their own citizens, like Venezuela and so on. But
Yes.
the way that I just, you're right. I mean, Costa Rica is just a gem that's sitting there, and a lot of people don't know it exists. So without kind of extending into the fact that I love where you're at, I love what you're doing, and I could continue to talk about it all day long
Yeah, we'll
because
take it offline. Our whole place, great places to travel in the world, because I know you have a
yeah.
ton of them too.
And when I go somewhere, I tend to be the I'm the 6 foot tall white guy that sticks out like a sore thumb, but I'm sitting. I love breaking bread with those people, and immersing myself in their culture, and doing similar to what Clark Griswold did years ago in European Vacation, where he accidentally showed up at somebody's house, knocked on the door, went in, sat down with them, ate with them, broke bread with them, talked with them, and then get up and they're like, "Who the hell was that guy?"
Yeah,
And so um,
love it.
that's the type of lifestyle that if I could live every day, I would, and just I would probably ultimately get myself killed at some point, like, because I would be somewhere trying to eat with a tribe that didn't even know other humans existed or something,
Just
but
watch where
anyway,
you go. But it's
yeah,
possible. I know what you mean, because I love these cultural travel trips. I'm not one that to go stay at the Ritz Carlton or the Westin.
no, no, no,
That's not us. We come here. We've been coming here for many. Well, it's our seventh visit, I would say, to Costa Rica. But many people just come here their first visit. I have friends that just moved here. They'd never been here before. But in our
Yeah.
previous visits, we would go stay with a host family up in Turrialba by the volcano, and we would live with this
Mhm.
host family for a month that only spoke Spanish, and they live on a cacao and coffee plantation, and it was a perfect
Wow.
Spanish immersion for my children and I, and
Sure, sure.
it was
Now,
a
didn't you tell me at one point you're wanting your kids to be fluent in Spanish by high school? Is that right, or something along
Yeah,
those lines?
that's
Which
another objective. It's been driving this
I
the whole time too. I started in kindergarten. Even though I couldn't speak Spanish myself, we've been learning together. So I've taken every
yeah,
opportunity of family vacations to immerse them in a Spanish speaking culture. And then
yeah,
even we live in California, so I make them go translate when they speak to, the gardener
yeah,
or anybody else.
yeah.
So yeah, my goal was bilingual by 7 for them, and they're at a
That's good.
high intermediate level of Spanish now.
Awesome. Yep. I have I've got some workers that are from Mexico and obviously and they're real good friends of mine as well. We all pick each other all the time. So the first thing that they taught me was all the curse words. So I can say I can cuss at anybody that I want to in Spanish and they'd have no idea what I'm saying, but it always seems to get a laugh. But anyway, I actually do speak probably intermediate Spanish anyway. So
Well, you always start with a
but
curse word, especially, I
that's
was in the
right. That
restaurant business through college and Mexican restaurants, and that's what you start with.
That's right. That's what
You're
I
not
started with
alone.
many
Yeah, you're
years
not
ago,
alone.
and so yeah, I'm glad to know that it's at least the way that things go. So, all right, well, let's talk. I want to hear just a little bit about. I know that the last time we chatted, you all had there was maybe you were looking for a lot or looking for a parcel of land, or maybe had even found one. I'm trying to recall. I've been if it's happened more than 5 minutes ago, my age is getting to the point where I'm just like I don't remember it, but I do remember
No
something about the
worries.
talk of land. I want to hear a little more about the real estate experiences that you've got down there, and then I want to talk a little bit about capital raising and hotel conversion and that kind of stuff. So, what about the real estate down there? What's
Y
going on with that?
You bet. On the real estate front, we are looking for lots. So, we are here. There's a housing crisis here. So there is
Okay,
far more people looking for homes that are available. And everybody, many, many people had the same idea as my husband and I. Let's leave this US. It's just crazy. Let's leave all of this in the pandemic and come to a tropical place. As a result, there's tremendous opportunity here. And there will continue to be. Costa Rica has been on the rise for expats buying homes here. And mostly the play here is to buy a lot because there's an abundance of labor. There's no labor shortage here. You have all the workers from Nicaragua coming down and they live on site of the property for a couple months, watch the property, guard the tools, build the house. You could buy a lot for 400, build for 400. In 18 months your project's done and you sell for 1.4. So there's
why
tremendous opportunity in flipping deals if one would want to do that.
18 months? What's the that
Well,
just seems that seems I guess when we're sitting here thinking about real estate in America and you're thinking, okay, hey, if it takes more than 4 months to build a house, it basically becomes not profitable. But what is it a supply thing? Because obviously you said the labor wasn't an issue, but is
no
it a
labor.
supply thing or what's going on with
It's a
that?
supply thing. Yeah, especially where we are. We're in the jungle essentially. So, we're 4 hours
So they
away
have to
from the capital city. And then you have to wait for permits. It's still Latin America. Things don't move really quickly on the permits and legislative side. But I think
gotcha.
8 months is a good estimate for investors. You could do it. I have friends that have done it in 11 months. But um,
I'm actually sitting here scrolling right now trying to find a message from the guy that that I met down there. And actually, when the pandemic first started, he messaged me and he said, "Man, I listen." He said, "I hate to do this." He said, "But I don't have any other choice." But he said, "Do you have some money?" And I said, I was like, and if I hadn't ever met him in person, it obviously would have been like I'd have been like, all right, scam block. But I know the guy, and I said, okay. I said the first thing I have to do is make sure that you are who you're telling me you are and from the to the degree of saying, somebody hasn't hacked your account and wants me to do this. So I was just, again, I'm sitting here looking for the the messages that he sent me because I can't remember um when that was, or but anyway, so I said, all right, where did we meet? And of course he spouted off, boom boom boom, I picked you up here, I drove you here. And I was like, dude, really, you remember all this stuff after all these, after like this 2 years ago? And he was just such a nice guy. And
Yes.
anyway, so I sent him some money because, as bad as things were here, I could, basically those guys went from, he drove us while we were there. We never drove anywhere. I'll drive anywhere, but we didn't drive there, and I'm not 100% sure that it would have been legal if I would have. I just remember it being a little bit.
Good move. The roads are
It was,
horrible in some places. That was
yeah,
a good move.
and
And there's no street signs.
and when he picked us up, I was like, oh my gosh, thank goodness that it that it didn't that I didn't drive, but anyway, I can't find it. I'm gonna have to get off. I'm gonna get off and get back to this. But um, so anyway, he named off these places he drove us, and I was like, dude, after 2 years, you're here. And so of course I sent him money and was glad to help out. As like I said, as bad as things were here in the States, they weren't anywhere near. Those guys were driving every day. They were used to making 150, $200 a day driving people. Well, all of a sudden that just boom stopped. Like they were driving people one day, and the next day, March 20th or whatever, they were like, go to your house, stay in your house, don't move,
Yep.
pay all your bills.
And here's the
and
downside of an economy based on tourism. Then what happens in a pandemic? If anything,
That's
these
right.
guys need some passive income, right? We got to
Correct.
send them all Rich Dad Poor Dad book in
That
Spanish.
that's right, in Spanish. But it was waters that hadn't been tested. That was the whole thing. Like nobody in this
Mhm.
world knew that. We didn't know
Mhm.
that a pandemic that even had the possibility of happening.
No.
Algorithms control the world everywhere. Surely they can
Mhm.
just program a computer and make it go away. But man, it was really I think it exposed pretty much every weakness that we had in a lot of different places, or
Sure
at
did.
least complacency that we had because it had been 100 years since the last one had taken a hold, and we definitely had a complacent population that laid down and let it go. So,
We sure
all
did.
right,
It'll
let's
be
talk.
interesting to see how these places pivot. Like Costa Rica has pivoted from coffee to tourism. And now, after this experience, I'm sure they're looking around saying we need to diversify even more because with gas
Yeah, we
prices
need
on the
to.
rise and all of these other things that have affected tourism in the past, especially
Yep,
places that are more remote and harder to get to, it,
yep. And I
it
I felt
has an
like they
impact.
didn't have near as I felt like they didn't have near as understanding of a government as we had here.
Uh,
But,
right.
on the idea that, "Hey, we've told everybody to stay at home and not work," because Costa Rica was like, "You're gonna continue to pay your bills, and you're not gonna leave your house, but you're gonna
Yeah.
pay your bills." And it was just, so I don't know, and I got an idea that they're not near as easy on non-bill payers as some other places in
No,
this world.
I would think they're not, but
Um,
they are good at going without. And they do have a tremendous family support. So it's a culture where there's multi generations under one roof. So they can
yeah,
rely
you
on
said they
each
live
other.
over there in a blue zone. They live to be over 100 years old. There ought to
Uh,
be. There ought
right.
to
You
be
have your
many
great great
generations in one
grandmother
spot.
still living with you.
That's right,
Got to get
that's
this
right.
one off
So,
payroll here.
there you go. Yeah, I don't know what getting off payroll consists of, but but anyhow, so tell me, let's talk a little bit about capital raising and hotel conversions because I know that you know quite a bit about both. Um,
You bet.
go into your first. Let's talk your first deal.
Okay. Well, let's see. Um, my first deal in capital raising or my first real estate deal ever?
First deal that you raised capital for.
Okay, well, that's actually goes with the hotel. And I wouldn't recommend anybody start with their first deal to raise capital for in a hotel in a tertiary market in the middle of a pandemic.
Mm,
Not This is not what the coaching programs are telling you to do.
I don't know that there was a coaching program anywhere that would have taught you that.
No. I'm a
That
little bit of
was
the
woof.
rogue coaching student,
There you
a
go.
little bit
Yeah.
of a
All
rebel
right.
all my life. Probably the reason I
Well,
ended up living in the jungle here. But
there
yeah,
you
that was
go.
that was our first my and my team, our first capital raise. And it's a great deal, is the good news. It's a tricky deal to race for because of our timing. We got this deal at the big, let's see, it was 2021, about
Okay.
2021, the beginning when we closed. And
Okay.
it's a 100 unit Quality Inn motel that we're taken down to 65 units of multifamily.
Okay.
And it's in Sierra Vista, Arizona.
Okay.
It's going down to 31 one bedrooms, 31 studios, and a few two bedrooms. And we've got this deal. This is the fun things with hotels. Hotels are a lot of fun, these hotel conversions. There's so much you can do with them. Um, but we got this deal for 30 cents on the dollar. So a 70% discount. So
Okay.
it's just,
Based on what valuation?
based on the valuation of what a multifamily would be, and it was very
Okay.
difficult to value it as a hotel because it was during the pandemic and they had
Mhm.
you didn't
Sure.
whatever it was before is not what it would be now. and
Exactly.
and this
That's why I
market,
was curious about what valuation
yeah, you got to back
somebody
it
would
up
use
into,
to. Yeah.
yeah, you got to back it up into multifamily for that one. Now is a little bit different, but back then you had a year of just nobody
So do
being
you
there.
take the building and you on paper you strip everything out and you say this is what it would cost us to have this shell and we're buying it for 30 cents. So it would cost $1 million to have this shell and we bought it for 300,000. Now we take our money and we turn it to multifamily. Am I right about that?
You got it. Sorry for the delay. A motorcycle
That's
just
okay.
went by.
Oh, that's fine. Yep,
Everybody
they're
rides
everywhere.
motorcycles here, motorcycles and ATVs. Yes,
Yep.
exactly. You're exactly right in how we did it. In hotels, there are different metrics you can use,
Okay.
certainly to analyze these. And they there's back of the napkin approaches in which they actually look at the value of the minibar in some of these older hotels. The average the the value of what people spend in the minibar times a multiple divided by another multiple. So that's one. Some people just depending what they're turning them into, they'll value it based on, like in our case, multifamily. So
Okay.
it's a time in the market thing, though. It was a little tricky since we had a building that had been vacant for a year almost. You know, this
Okay.
hotel industry has been hemorrhaging long before the pandemic because Airbnb has given them a real run for their money.
I think the
So,
pandemic was just kind of the nail in the coffin for a lot of marginal hotels as it was.
oh, it was. Yeah, it just sunk them. But hotel conversions are really fun, but there's some pitfalls. So anybody considering this needs to know there's some landmines to look out for. And
Okay.
I can certainly help you with that should you be interested. But, three big things that come to mind, it's the zoning, the franchise, and fire. So, first of all, in hotels, you need to figure out, can you even rezone it to multifamily? In our case, we got
Okay.
lucky. It's a small, little tertiary market. We could. It was just an over change of use over the counter. But one of
Okay.
our good friends, he is doing one in Phoenix, and the city said, "Okay, we'll give you your rezoning, but it comes with strings attached. So you got to pay
Ah,
$500,000 to repave the road and put in two fire hydrants along the way, and then we'll give you your rezoning." So you have to
man, that just seems to me like such an easy find during due diligence, unless you budget for that.
y-
Because anyway, go ahead.
yeah, you got to know that. You got to know, and he kind of knew that. He said he looked at the road and said, "Oh boy, they're going to ask me to fix this."
But you try to get by, and if they don't, then you're that much further ahead.
Yeah, you're that much
Maybe
further ahead.
budget for 2/3 of it, and then close your eyes for the other third, and hope
Yeah,
that you can get by. So
hope and pray. But yeah, they came
yes, ma'am.
back and said just what he had underwritten for. And then you
Yep.
have their franchise costs. So you have to buy out the franchise, the Quality Inn or Days Inn or Suites, whatever you're buying. You got to get them out of that. That will range from 35,000 to often 200,000. You have to know
So
what that is.
they own rights to the property, or a long-term lease on the property, or
It's a buy-in into the franchise by the owners. So the hotel owners need to buy themselves out, and you could it's best to push it back on them because you don't want to be in the hotel business, but that
No.
franchise must be taken care of or the deal's off. You don't want to be in the hotel business unless
Okay.
that was your
Yeah. Yeah.
plan
No.
initially. And then the third theme is fire. So just the fire abatement's going to cost you a ton of money. Counterintuitively, hotels are many of them don't have fire sprinklers, and as a result, they don't have the amount of fire hydrants that they would need. So,
Okay.
ours, it was 180,000 for fire sprinklers. Then we had to put in a fire hydrant. And then you have to look at the thickness of the sheetrock on the wall
Yep.
because since they don't have kitchens, they don't worry about fire that much. And as a result, the sheetrock is a lot thinner in hotels.
Yep.
And so you have to pull all that out and put thicker sheetrock for fire abatement. So lots of things there. And then there's the kind of the fun things with hotels. Like if you have a two-story hotel like we do, well, it's the windows don't open on the second story because of suicide risk, and you'll get this in all these
Yep.
hotels. So you have these floor-to-ceiling windows that or floor-to-ceiling
Nope.
windows that don't open. So you're counterintuitively having to reframe all the windows on the second story into smaller windows for fire egress. Um,
Gosh,
I
dang.
know,
Yeah.
I
So
know.
fire. Well, you mentioned fire even on your friends thing in Phoenix, the fire part of having to put the fire hydrant in. I mean, because they don't. Again, it's just something that when you just don't think about it and think about the difference in multifamily and hotel, because
Mhm,
you know. A lot of people think you just go in, you take two rooms, turn it into one, knock a
mhm,
wall out, turn it into one, and put a kitchen in. There you go. But it's yeah, the sheetrock was the big deal when we were building multifamily. Is like not only does the sheetrock have to be thicker on both sides, so it creates almost an inch more sheetrock between the two
yes.
sides. It has to go all the way if it's a single level like a quadplex, triplex, duplex. It has to go floor to um, roof line. Like it
Uh-huh.
has to go up, you have to frame over top of the wall that separates it, and I'm sorry, it's 5/8 sheetrock that has to
Yes,
go floor to roof line, and then both sides. They
that's
didn't worry
right.
about insulation or anything, but it had to be 5/8 sheetrock that went floor to roof line.
That's right.
So
That's exactly right. And you would think, hotels with how noisy it is, you'd think they'd have thicker sheetrock in there, but they don't have thick enough for the fire protection
the
that they need.
fire,
Um,
wow,
a big
that's
play in
unbelievable.
I know. I mean, there's just so we could go on and on and on, but there's a lot of things. But to minimize cost, it's good in going into these things to figure out where you're going to have your water hookups. In our case,
Okay.
we we put them on the other side of where the bathroom is. So hotels are set up in just really two basic ways. One, you walk in and to the left there's the bathroom, or
Yep.
on the mirrored side, you walk in and to the right there's the bathroom. Well, as you walk into the actual bedroom part of the hotel, on the other side of that bathroom wall, that's where we put our kitchens, and we put efficiency kitchens in those. And we're able to
Yep.
use all those water hookups. Um, if one was to buy a suites hotel, it would be even better because many of them come with kitchens. So
Mini
that's
kitchens. Yep.
mini kitchens, and that's a nice play. And then
Wow.
there's the fun thing that it's like musical doors. You end up with all these doors because we had 100 units and we're taking it down to 65. We have the remaining of those front doors to move around. So we have one whole unit just filled with all these, heavy security doors. Do
Yep.
you like want to put that
Yep.
on your bedroom? I mean, these are thick, like you can't kick in these doors.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so
Wow. Well,
yeah.
that's interesting, and it's the first time I've ever really dove into a hotel conversion talk. And some of those points, are definitely worth at least addressing if somebody's considering it,
Mhm.
or considering, hey, maybe this is a steal based on the square footage under roof, but may not be a steal if you look at if the hotel wants a half, or the company wants $500,000 to buy out their contract. There's a lot there to definitely watch out for. You called them landmines, and they are most definitely landmines.
And
So
they are, and they are, and it's a deep value add, Casey. You know, it's can you your investors really need to sit back and put on their patience hat. It's
yeah, because you're talking. I mean, you're talking almost longer than a new construction because you have to take out,
Mhm,
then put back in rather than
mhm.
just continually put in
Yep.
new stuff. So, hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the Cash Flow Pro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 Must Know Keys to Success in Passive Real Estate Investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making Cashflow Pro part of your day. Now, back to the show. Well, listen, we're kind of running out of time. I think we've hit a lot of really good points here, and I think the listeners are going to get a lot of value from at least the hotel conversion part of this, and hopefully they're considering maybe a relocation to somewhere tropical themselves, and they can really learn a lot from that, or even possibly reach out to you when we get to that part of the show where somebody can reach out and say, "Hey, Becca, I really want to do what you're doing, but I want to go here. What do you suggest?" And maybe we can go from there. But before we get to that, there's a couple of questions we ask every guest that comes on the show. And the first being, what is the best book that you have ever read or are currently reading?
Oh, oh my gosh, I'm a voracious reader, so this is going to be a tough one because there's many. My previous favorite, of course, is the Purple Bible, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, that's everybody has read. Um,
Yep,
but my recent favorite is Who Not How. And especially for those
I've
living
got it.
remotely or trying to put a portion of everything you do on autopilot, it has been a game changer. And the
Yep,
big premise of that, as I'm sure you've probably read it and many of your listeners have, but for those that have not, the premise is, you can take something from the 0 to 80% fairly easily. You have it all in your
yep,
head. You just kind of regurgitate that on paper and you've got it. But taking it from the 80 to 90% is hard. And taking
yep,
it from the 90 to 100% is like climbing a mountain. It's so hard. So
yep.
the key is to outsource it at that 80%. And that's the enlightenment Who Not How is giving me.
Well, it's such a yeah. I mean, in the Enlightenment, that's definitely a good way to put it. So, but yeah, Who Not How is probably I'd say it would be the book of the year for me for 2021. This is 2022. The years go by so fast now. I got to stop and be like, yeah, what?
I have
Because
to
we're
think
already
about it
halfway
too.
through 2022, and the time the show airs, we're going to be another 12th of it through. So, all right. Well, what is now? This is going to be a stretch, I'm sure, based on just where you're living right now. But what is a dream vacation you have taken or hope to take?
Next on our list is Thailand. So we hope to go to
Awesome.
Thailand for next summer,
Yep.
for the entire summer. And after
Oh,
this,
that's cool.
in this experience, in living in the tropics and also visiting this place many times, you get so much more out of it if you stay a long time. So we have planned out in our next summer vacations, we're going to plant ourselves in these places for a month and a half and really
Yep.
get to know the people. None of this cruise in for 10 days and stay at the Ritz Carlton. That's not our
Yep.
jam at all.
Yep.
That's my dream
I'm
vacation.
super jealous of that. The Philippines is actually one of the places that I wanna go, which is very I assume at least based on pictures is a lot like Taiwan. Or did you
Yes.
say Thailand? I'm sorry.
Thailand, yeah,
Thailand.
yeah. But I know
So,
what you mean. Southeast Asia is top of my list now. I haven't
yep,
ventured
yep,
there. I was a college backpacker, so I've traveled quite a bit. I backpacked around the world for about 6 months, and just by myself after college.
ah,
And I
yeah,
I went to go
that's
see Hong Kong before it became part of communist China. Dating myself
yep.
there probably, but it was going to fall in the hands of communist China 3 months after I left there.
Wow,
So
isn't that something?
it's
Isn't that something?
just, and you know what, Casey, I got so much more out of that trip after 4 years of college in traveling around the world for 6 months than I got in 4 years of college.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And I say this all the time that I've got the best schooling that anybody could ask for. I've got a degree in basically 48 different things just by trying to start a capital raising business. I mean, you have to become so proficient at so many different aspects of it. And even if you don't know a lot about one aspect of it, you have to know a little bit, or at least enough to know who to hire to get to do that.
You
So
do.
so you get this whole spread, and then of course you add your element of world travels and world living and everything on top of that. It changes. So but all right, so Becca, if the listeners have heard something that's really resonated with them, and or they want to reach out to you and talk a little more about this lifestyle, or potentially putting everything they've got on hold and generating, or at least looking at saying, hey, we want to invest in this for passive income, how can they reach out to you and get in touch and talk with you?
You bet. I hope you can hear me okay, Casey. The torrential
Yes.
rains just began. And do you hear the
Are the
monkeys?
monkeys coming?
Do you hear the monkeys howling in the backgrounds?
I do not hear them. I hear the
Oh,
rain, but I do
oh,
not.
the
I
rain
don't hear the
is.
monkeys.
This is so refreshing since I'm coming from California, and we just would kill for rain there. Uh,
Sure.
so yes, listeners can reach me. I have a little gift for your listeners. It's called
Okay.
6 Steps to Put Your Income on Autopilot and Move Overseas. And this is a guide that will show you, some of the most common places expats move, some of the best places in 2020 to move for expats, and a cost of living index to help your listeners determine where they would like to go. And then it goes into
Awesome.
the other steps and how we've done this and how they can do this too, and leads into that passive income in multifamily real estate really is the key here. And they could find that at, I'm so sorry for the rain.
No, it's
Um,
fine. It's fine.
it's part of the effect, right?
Yeah,
Who needs special effects?
that's
Who
right.
needs special
That's right.
effects and fake backgrounds? We've got it all here. But they could find that at www.hintinvestments.com. That's investments with an S at the end.
Okay.
Hintinvestments.com to download that free guide.
Awesome. Well, Becca, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, and we really appreciate it. I know it's not always ideal coming from down. I see a monkey jumping around on the tree back
Can
there.
you see them?
Uh,
Yep.
yep, I just saw one run in from the left. So,
Yep, they're
but
here.
listen,
You guys got to
again, I
see
want to thank
Casey on
you.
YouTube. You got to see this. Tune
That's
in on
right. It's
YouTube, folks.
they're running on the trees back there behind you. So, all right. Well, listen. Well, thank you so much for being with us, and listeners. If you've liked what you listened to today, and you want to learn more, get in touch with Becca at her website that she gave you. And also, if you don't mind, please leave us a review and give us 5 stars. When you do that review, we will be forever grateful for anybody that passes along our podcast, because we're trying to reach the world, teach the world, and get them to learn how to make cash flow part of their lifestyle. And again, I want to thank everybody for listening. Have a wonderful day.
Cashflow Pro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.